I was doing a presentation overviewing the project for a few people who were interested, and I was also talking about the history of the project, so how the vision came to be, how it was conceptualized and invented and came upon, and all of those things. And at some point during the presentation, I said, "This is the year I was born." You're using your voice to record something, to make it sound the way how you want to make it sound, and we're just making sure that it sounds perfect, but it's still you. And that way, we're also calling ourselves transformative AI. So we're not generating, we're transforming your voice so that it sounds very, very good. I'm really worried about that for my parents and my grandparents, right? I can see that someone could take a sample of my voice and create a message for them saying that I'm in trouble and I need the money, right? Not just a message, an audio recording, or even a real-time projection of, replacing the face, replacing the voice in real time. That is coming, and that is terrifying.
Hi, and welcome to the Exceptional Leverage podcast. My name is Jan, I am the host. Today I have Mateusz with me. Hi, Mateusz.
Hi, Jan. Nice to be here with you.
Hi, thank you very much for accepting my invitation for the podcast.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure.
And if you're wondering what we will be talking about, today's episode will be all about audio. It will be about artificial intelligence, technology, maybe a little bit about Python as well. And we will discuss some startup life as well.
It's very exciting.
So, Mateusz, the first question is basically probably the most open one. What is your background? What you are doing in your life?
Yeah, so I went through a bit of a journey, everything related to technology, so that's easy, but quite a few roles and different companies. So I studied robotics at the Gdańsk University of Technology in Poland, where I learned a lot of interesting things about how to design robots, how to build robots. Also for fun, I was a part of a nice student club where we were building robots for fun and for competitions. Then at some point, I took a pivot to work for the space industry for a while. I started working with a company locally in Gdańsk called Blue Dot Solutions. I was working part-time with them on various projects. They were also doing a lot of events related to startups, and that's how I got my first brush with startups and the space industry. At some point during my career at the university, someone from one of my colleagues' students said, "Hey, there's this thing called the European Space Agency. We're interested in space technologies. Let's try to apply. They have this interesting and nice young graduate trainee program where you can essentially, it's like an internship, fully paid, very nice salary to start with after university. But let's try." So a few of us tried, and I was one of the people who got accepted. And then I moved to the Netherlands to work for them for 2 years. There I was working on the European robotic arm, so that was still related to robotics. I was actually building this device for testing one of the parts. It was a very interesting, very exciting project to be a part of. And then I decided somehow that, okay, space industry, it's all great, it's all nice, but it takes time to build things. The project that I was a part of was ongoing for more than I have been alive. I remember that I was doing at the end of my term there, at the end of 2 years, I was doing a presentation overviewing the project for a few people who were interested, and I was also talking about the history of the project, so how the vision came to be, how it was conceptualized and invented and came upon, and all of those things. And at some point during the presentation, I said, "This is the year I was born." So this gives you an idea of the scale of the length of those projects. And some of them are that long, complicated, big, expensive, and take time. And that was what is commonly referred to as the old space industry. There's also the new space industry, which promises to do things differently. But at that point, I saw how the old space industry operates. And I felt like, okay, I want to try to do something different. So I pivoted to the software industry, where I moved to the Czech Republic, and I joined a company called Showmax, where I've been working as a backend developer at first, and I was doing data analytics. Then I was leading the analytics team, and finally I moved to a role more of an architect. just in a few years. So that was, compared to the space industry, it was a very rapidly evolving career because the company was very dynamic and I was giving a lot of opportunity and a lot of support from them to develop my skills. And I've learned a lot about technology, about cloud systems, cloud platforms, product development, data analytics, why numbers matter, as you were saying about how you measure things for your podcast. So that was a really exciting and interesting time. Eventually, I decided to part with Showmax and go back to the space industry. I then moved to Canada to work for a company called Mission Control, where we've been working on space technologies related to lunar rovers. And recently I decided to pivot again in my life. And now I work for a company called Revoize at a position of the head of product, where I'm leading the efforts for designing, developing, and ultimately selling our web-based platform for speech enhancement.
Okay, that's quite an interesting introduction, I have to say. A couple of, as you say, pivoting moments. But first of all, just yesterday, I have seen the new keynotes from the CEO of NVIDIA with that small robot. So is that the robot you were imagining when you started? Is this something you thought about, that it will happen in your life, or?
Actually, when you ask it like that, yes, that's what I was imagining when I first, when I was 18 and picking university. That's what I was imagining when I thought robotics. I didn't think about it that way since, but yes, I felt like, so when I was deciding to move away from robotics as a profession, as my core focus, I felt like it's mostly research based environment. Things take time. The development is pretty slow. Now the development is much more rapid, right? We see a lot of interesting developments, more humanoid robots coming online from the companies like Tesla, and more of those platforms becoming more readily available. I've been at NeurIPS last year, which is the biggest AI conference, and there was a few companies with robotics, with robots of various types, selling their platforms. So I think pretty confidently we can say that in our lifetime, in the next few years, we will start seeing more robots on the streets.
So it will happen. So I just wanted to ask if it will happen, and you just been faster than me. So do you think it will be part of our lives?
I think so. I think so. We'll see how much, and we'll see what roles will they have. But with the modern, the main reason why I thought that it will not happen was that the way how you program robots is you have to take into account a lot of cases of what they have to do, right? Mm-hmm. With the latest developments with large language models and reasoning related to those large language models, that problem is becoming easier to solve because robots, machines, computers can now reason in a certain abstract way. And that certain abstract way is good. It's how humans reason in a certain abstract way. So I think that will allow for a lot of developments, and rapid progress now.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm born in 80s and grew up in 90s, where mobile phones were just being discovered. Now we live in an era where we are surrounded by LLMs and artificial intelligence. It's becoming part of our lives. We also had pandemic for 3 years during our lives. But it's happening like every 10 years, there is something drastically new. So if I'm not mistaken, in the next 10 years, we actually might be seeing some robots in our homes as well. And my next question is, Mateusz, like the space industry, right? I'm trying to do astronomy photography for a couple of years, I would say. And maybe this year I will be actually motivated to do something more. You probably seen the yesterday's videos from the astronauts landing on in the sea, right? So yeah, they came back after 9 months. And the space industry is something which is for me like a big unknown, right? So I can see the stars, but the technology, as you said, the old world and the new space. And I'm just wondering, like, from your opinion again, Like, do you think we will like occupy Mars, during our lifetime, and then we go back to the artificial intelligence?
Sure. Mars, I'm skeptical. I think we will definitely see more action around the moon. That's the current primary focus, I would say, of the international body of researchers and space agencies. So, and yeah, there's a lot of money pumped into that, and with a new approach as well. So NASA has this program called CLIPS, Commercial Lunar Payload Services, which is a new space paradigm program, which basically says NASA is telling, okay, we want companies to develop services for delivering things to the moon, and we want to use those services. We will not tell you how to do it. We will not give you, too many constraints. We just want to be able to pay for a service to have our box delivered on the moon. And this is very different from the old paradigm of saying, okay, we want to put something on the moon. We want to design the launcher, the lander, everything in between. No, now the new paradigm is we want companies to provide services, and we will use those services. And they also openly say we assume that there will be failures, and it will take time to get to the point where this is a reliable service. So over the past even month, if I'm counting correctly, we had a couple of space companies land on the moon or try to land on the moon. Over the past 2 years, we had a few more. But if you look further past than that, not a lot has happened. So now we're in this point where we have a number of companies trying to land things on the moon as a part of commercial services. And this will dramatically accelerate the whole industry, because getting there is the first primary problem, right? Getting to the surface is the first primary problem. Once you solve that, you can start thinking about how you build out the infrastructure. So there's companies that are looking into distributing power. There's agreements and projects about communication network to the moon. And there's all those other crazy ideas. I've met once a company that was promising to do 3D printing of solar panels on the surface of the moon using the lunar dust as the material.
Okay.
And we will see more of that. And all of those are exciting and crazy. It seems like normal investors are interested in the topic. So there's a lot of money, also private money being pumped into the industry. So there's a lot of exciting startups and a lot of exciting work happening. And it's very different from what it used to be.
And just yesterday, I have seen the self-building robotic panel, or actually tower, which was building solar panels like step by step, like a Lego, like it was a robot in the middle, and it was building the tower up. It was like 5.5 meter high solar panel built, supposedly to be built on the moon. So as you say, it's something crazy that it's somebody is testing tools like that. On the other side, I'm just wondering now privately, for me, like the private companies like flying to the moon, like from where they are like coming. You don't hear about that. They are just appearing later on in the news, like somebody landed the lunar, or landed actually on the moon, right? And it is a private company. Like I thought that when you take space into consideration, there is NASA and SpaceX, and that's it. But I'm wrong.
There's
like, totally wrong.
There's a lot more companies. And well, it's a private company, but it is being backed by NASA. So I don't want to. I think this is my understanding. I may be very wrong. NASA is paying for a lot of that work and a lot of those projects throughout the CLIPS program. They are not the only buyer, so those companies can have other scientific payloads and instruments that are bought by other companies, by other say universities or research institutes or other companies that they bring to the moon, and they provide. The lander will provide basic services like power or communication bandwidth. So this is the new clip. This is the new paradigm where NASA is paying. Okay, we will give you money. We'll give you this much money, and we want our thing to be placed on the moon, to be landed on the moon. We're not interested in how you do it. So those are private companies that they have developed. They have won the contract a few years back for providing those services. They have built their lander. They have established a communication. They have solved the problem of communication. They have designed all the systems with regards to power, thermal efficiency, etc. And now they launch and they try to land, and some of them land successfully. Some of them are lost in orbit. And yeah, there is one interesting company called iSpace. They are an American entity, a Japanese entity, and a European entity. So they have offices in all of these places. And it's interesting. They've recently, I think they haven't landed yet. I think the Hakuto R M2 is still in flight to the moon. So they're currently flying. On that rocket that they have launched, there were 2 landers going to the moon. 2 landers going to the moon, launched on one rocket. Crazy times. So, yeah.
Okay, so we say the moon will be first, and then probably in a couple of decades we will move to Mars.
It all depends on private will and funding from certain individuals, how hard they will be pushing. If I'm not mistaken, SpaceX and Starship also won a contract from NASA to land on the moon and provide those services. They have won to deliver humans to the moon. I think as a part of that contract, they are supposed to land on the moon next year, Starship on its own, and then the year after that they will take humans, which is incredible again. So depending on where the focus of Mr. Musk and others like him goes, maybe he will want to focus on the moon for now and pump money into that industry. Maybe he will want to go straight to Mars because he can make that decision.
Yeah, definitely. And when you say delivering packages to moon or Mars, it doesn't really matter. The only company I can imagine is Amazon. I don't know why. Like Jeff Bezos is probably like thinking hard, like how to deliver packages to the moon, because he will be the first delivery company flying between planets. And just jokes aside, but he had actually the flights in the space. He was operating a company. I forgot the name now, but he was actually What was the name?
Blue Origin.
Blue Origin, yes, that's correct. Yes, Blue Origin.
And if I'm not mistaken, Blue Origin also won a contract for developing a lunar lander for humans as a part of the Artemis program.
So he's going there.
He's going there, yeah. It's a weird, So if I'm not mistaken, and I may be wrong here, Starship won 1 or 2 landings for humans, and then Blue Origin's lander will also deliver humans to the moon a few times. That's part of the Artemis program. So Artemis is NASA's program for getting humans back on the moon. And it's part of this whole effort of, there's also this international agreement called the Artemis Accords, which basically establishes rules for cooperation between different nations and countries and agencies and space agencies and companies about how we as the world, how we will work together for space exploration. Implicitly, the first objective of that is the moon. It's Artemis Accords related to the Artemis missions, but the framework is general. It's about establishing a common framework for doing things in space.
And what is interesting to me, that even though you work now in totally different area of technology, you are still very up to date with all the news and all the companies and the space industry.
Yeah, that's the nice part about the space industry. It's very exciting, right? It's very visionary. We're explorers, right?
Definitely.
I think about this I think about humanity as explorers, and that is the frontier that is currently unexplored. So all of those exciting developments are very exciting, and it's a very exciting industry to work in.
Definitely agree. And going back to the technology and your current work, I would like to shift the discussion a little bit to the second topic, which is audio and artificial intelligence. And I introduced you as a head of product in Revoize. You also mentioned that this is your current company, right? You're working for. So what is a Revoize about? What do you actually guys do?
Sure. So Revoize is a technology company that is developing next generation speech enhancement AI models. Speech enhancement is a general term for anything that makes you sound better, more natural, more pleasant to listen to. Audio is difficult, and one of the reasons why it's difficult is because the way how we hear things is and how we interpret things is different from how they actually sound like, and we give meaning to words, to sounds, that is very abstract and difficult to teach machines to listen to. For example, you can imagine being in a very busy cafe and having a conversation with someone, right, in that cafe. And you think, okay, I've done that. That's not a big problem. Our brains can filter information somehow and help us focus on the right thing. However, if I was calling you on the phone from a busy cafe, you would not be able to understand very well what I'm talking about because there's a lot of noise. And through this communication medium, that noise is very distracting, and our brains cannot filter that noise very well in this kind of virtual setting. So at Revoice, we're essentially developing technology that can remove any kind of noise from the recording. It can also remove any form of artifacts and distortions that are making your voice less natural and are making you sound like recorded in substandard conditions. We're saying that we can turn any recording into a studio quality recording. Mm-hmm. That's our tagline.
And can you describe a little bit for the listeners who are not familiar with how does it work actually? Like, yeah, you said you are using artificial intelligence, but just in a very simple way, can you tell us how it works?
Yeah, so maybe going a little bit through history, traditional noise removal methods, the way how they work is that there's an AI model, a neural network, that is trained to identify noise, anything that's noise, anything that is not human speech. And the way how that works is that you apply a mask on the recording. So essentially you're cutting off everything that sounds like noise. That works reasonably well if the noise level is not very high. If the noise level is very high and the noise kind of overshadows the speech, you can cut out too much. So maybe sometimes you're in a voice call with someone over Google Meet or Microsoft Teams or any of those platforms, and you hear them fine, but then the sound sounds garbled for a moment, and that garbled sound is too aggressive noise removal. Our methods work on a different principle. Our methods are trained to regenerate the signal in the same way how you can ask ChatGPT to look at a text that has typos in it and invalid words sometimes, and you can ask it, hey, clean this up, or tell me what you think this said, and it will reconstruct the text. In the same way, our AI can reconstruct the audio. So it doesn't just remove the noise, it also reconstructs the signal so that it sounds like it was recorded in clean conditions. So it's kind of like that, where it's almost like it's a system that is prompt to clean up an audio recording or create an audio recording that sounds like the person who's speaking in the source recording, but without all the noise and all the distortions.
And I'm doing podcasts, right? And I'm really keen on the level of the sound I get. So when I record in Riverside, right, there is the echo cancellation I'm just looking at. There is this post-editing ways of, enhancing voice and so on. But there are sometimes issues with the sound in general. So, but from what I know and what you just mentioned as well, Revoice works in real time, right?
Correct. Revoice works in real time. Our ultimate goal is to essentially clean up recordings. Our goal is essentially to help people communicate better. We all have people, loved ones, who are all over the world, and communicating via remote communication media is nice. You can talk with them, but it doesn't really feel like you're there with them. And the poor audio quality is one of the problems. So our ultimate vision is that we want to bring good audio quality, perfect audio quality, studio audio quality to every conversation. And for that, yes, it has to work in real time, and it has to be performant enough to be able to run on different edge devices like computers or phones or what have you. So that is an interesting challenge to solve as well.
Definitely. So, for example, now if I would hit the button stream and we would just, have Revoice in Riverside, right? So if Riverside is listening that this is not for you, then it would actually clean the audio of me and you talking in real time, right?
Yes. There are interesting
Okay.
challenges to
Hmm.
build a product like that because it's not easy to build a plugin to
Hmm.
Riverside to do that. It's not easy to build
Hmm.
a plugin for Microsoft Teams or Google Meet to do that, to offer a product like that. The primary path for us is to partner up with those companies, which is difficult. It's challenging, right? The likes of Microsoft don't want to talk with you unless you're really big. So we needed to figure out a way how to start as a business, and that way how to start we figured out is through a more mass market product for fixing audio quality for
Hmm.
recordings. It's a lot easier to implement, to develop. So our platform at revoice.com, it allows you to clean up audio recordings in post production. So for content creators, for
Hmm.
educators, for maybe you have old content that needs restoration. Traditional noise removal methods would not be able to restore quality of old content, and our technology can do that as well. And we're following this paradigm of starting with a more mass market approach. So if you think about a lot of AI companies, they started with having a product for the general public, and
Hmm.
then they built fame and popularity on that, and that's when they started attacking the business side or the enterprise side. And we're following that path. So right now we're at the point where we're scaling up our web
Hmm.
platform, and we're in early talks with a few companies related to communication about integrating within their platform.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's a very exciting time to be.
Yeah. Just for everybody who's listening, I tested Revoice yesterday, so day before the recording of this podcast, and the results were pretty good. I actually used the old recording of my podcast, like first or second episode, and I was just playing with it. So it's very simple interface. You just upload your file and you get back your file, so you just download it, and it worked very well. So if anybody who needs actually adjusting the voice or any recording, just go to revoice.com and test it out. So my recommendation is here. And would you also recommend, right, your product to all the content creators who might need audio enhancing?
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, One of the things especially for creators who, like you, have guests that are calling in. So that's one of the things we've noticed is that when you're starting up and you're an individual content creator, you can buy a good microphone, you can create your own setup, and that's all good. But then often you will want to have people call in, and those people may not have good quality audio.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the avenues for using our product. When you have guests calling in and you need to clean up that voice, it's definitely something you can do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And the second part of the question is like, I have seen what you just mentioned and the confirmation of your or a revoice being actually implemented in tools. It was on your LinkedIn, I think today or it was yesterday, with a Polish company where you actually, can I talk about it or is it like a secret? Not probably,
Sure.
right?
No, I mean it's public information right now.
Public information. What is on LinkedIn and social media is already public, right? So
Sure.
yes, it works like that. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Like, what
Yeah,
is
sure.
this
So
collaboration about? Mm-hmm.
sure. So Anystar is a multi-channel network. So they are a place that is. Um, so I'm trying to figure out the right way to say this. um, they're a place for creators. They provide services to creators. So they are. I'm missing a word. um, Basically within their network they have
Mm-hmm.
a lot of creators. That's what I'm trying
Mm-hmm.
to say.
Mm-hmm.
Polish creators, and they provide a lot various services for them related to ads and other, I think, legal contracts. They help them. So with this partnership, Revoice is yet another service that they offer through their network to their creators.
Mm-hmm.
um, it's another tool in their tool belt, something that increases the attractiveness of them as a multi-channel network, as an MCN. And for us, it's a good way to spread our product to
Mm-hmm.
more. to a new group of potential users. Of course, within that cooperation, they're getting some extra minutes, they're getting some extra support. So that's how that works out. We're very excited. Anystar is a pretty big network, so we're looking forward to working with them.
So all the creators who are on the platform actually have a chance to enhance their speech as they create content. Is this about right? Do I understand it?
Yeah, so
Correctly?
they essentially they can use the platform that you have used, but for free. We currently offer 15 minutes for free, and creators from Anystar will get more than that, and they will also get preferential pricing if they want to enhance more content. It's as simple as that.
Okay, understand. So I need to upload longer recording. I played only with 1 minute recording, so 15 minutes is the limit. Okay, I will test it one more time. And when you talk about audio, like artificial intelligence is all about video creation currently, which everybody is talking about, like Sora and other Runway ML and other models. They talk about DeepSeek, for example, right? The new Chinese LLMs popping up every single day. But I rarely hear about audio. Like, why is that, do you think?
Audio is a niche.
Okay.
It's a very complicated problem. Interestingly, I think Poland is a form of a niche place for audio technology startups. There's a lot of them. If we go past a couple of years, Ivona, the first real, actually well-working text-to-speech model, was developed in Poland. Later on, it was sold to Amazon to help the Alexa team with their textual models. Now we have 11 Labs, which is the new leading text-to-speech. We have a few other startups, and we have Revoize, and we're focusing on cleaning up speech. There was a company called Babel Labs, which is a company where our founder worked at, which was then sold to Cisco. So there's a lot of voice-related startups coming from Poland, and voice is difficult to work with, and especially generating voice is a difficult problem to work with, because when you're transcribing voice, let's call it a simple transformation relatively. So what I said is what I said, right? If we write it down, that is what I said, undoubtedly, and there is no challenge about. There is no contest about whether this is what I said, unless I blurb something out. But the other way around, you can have the same text, but you can say it in a million different ways, depending on what you put emphasis on, what you put the emotion on, and what kind of emotion you put on. So speech synthesis is just a very difficult problem. You can build, and these are the challenges that we've heard from companies and people who are working with content production, with movie production, with advertisement production. They said that they tried these models and they just don't strike the right note with the emotion. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But when creating an ad, you want the voice to sound in a specific way to convey a certain emotion, a certain feeling, maybe of relaxation, maybe of drama. Even though the text is the same, it's a different way different parameters of the signal. And these parameters are very abstract. I'm not sure. I don't think there is any way to evaluate how emotional a given sample of speech is. It's definitely not standard part of the transcription. So what we're doing is we're making sure we're essentially giving people, you're using your voice to record something, to make it sound the way how you want to make it sound. And we're just making sure that it sounds perfect, but it's still you. In that way, we're also calling ourselves transformative AI. So we're not generating, we're transforming your voice so that it sounds very, very good. And audio is a niche because it's complicated. We're struggling even with things like evaluating the quality of the recording. What does it mean that a recording is studio quality? There's very few automatic machine methods for evaluating that. The best thing we have, the most standard thing we have, requires humans to evaluate any given recording. That is, of course, expensive. So, yeah, and in general, the trend has been that the voice industry, the voice AI industry, lags a little bit behind the text-based models, image-based models. just because I think it's different in a certain way people don't necessarily expect.
Yeah, definitely it is. And then just now listening to you, like talking about this audio, and it all makes sense now because it's not easy, right? And I tested majority of the leading tools, like from 11 Labs and so on. And I rarely got actually an excellent audio sample back. So when you mention emotions, it doesn't really, it all sounds the same to me. Like there is no enhancement in emotions. You cannot like make, better laugh or I don't know, anger or showcase any other style of emotion in the communication. So yeah, it's actually, I can understand why you are saying that it's very difficult to work with the voice, or with audio
Yeah.
in general.
So what you said just now, also like laugh, anger, grunts, any form of music, singing, vocals, all of those things, you have to make decisions about how you want to treat them, and it's just not very easy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's pretty interesting. And how do you see this evolving? Like, what's the next step for also for Revoice? You said that you are like planning now and to go mass production and to have the product for masses, and then later to attract larger companies, which makes sense, right? To implement even in Riverside, for example. But what's the next step in audio AI or transformative AI, as you say?
So for us, the next step is we're actually right now getting ready for a seed round. So we
Mm-hmm.
are looking for more funding, and that's a very exciting time for startups to be. Um, the end game for us is we would like our tool to be used for communication, to communicate for any communication platform, so that all communications are clear and clean, regardless of what platform is it on. So that's our ultimate goal. Where the whole industry is going, it's going to be a very interesting time of
Mm-hmm.
mixing things that are generated and things that are spoken. I really personally I like what the script is trying to do. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure if you
Mm-hmm.
tried playing with that tool.
Yes.
They essentially allow you to edit an audio recording as if it was a text file, including replacing what was said.
Mm-hmm.
So they will regenerate that fragment for you, so you can change what was said during the podcast, so that it's maybe you used the wrong word, or maybe you didn't say it clearly, maybe you want to delete half a paragraph of text. So you can use their tool to make those edits easily, but also regenerate the text so that it says something else than what you said during the actual recording. So I think that is a very powerful thing. Of course it has some problems. It doesn't work perfectly, but that's a very interesting promise. Maybe we will get to a point where we can sit down and record an episode like this, and we just drop it in the tool, and the tool completely restructures everything so that it keeps the essence of what was said, and keeps the general tone of how we're saying, because every person has their own way of talking, but it removes all the pauses. It increases the fluency, increases how nice it is to listen to something. um, so I think that is an interesting thing to be looking forward to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to not be too negative. We may get also to the point where, yeah. So one of the things that I'm envisioning as well is that we may get to a point where things like YouTube become obsolete, because you will be able to generate any form of content you want. So if I'm interested in watching a video about marketing, I will just type out a prompt and have a talking head video be generated for me in the style and tone and voice that I like, that I enjoy. So that may be a future.
Okay.
Of course, that also means that a lot of deepfakes are coming
Mm.
on a very personal level, hitherto unheard of. So I'm really worried about that for my parents and my grandparents, right? I can see
Mhm.
that someone could take a sample of my voice and
Mhm.
create a message for them saying that I'm in trouble and
Yeah.
I need the money, right? Not just a message, an audio recording, or even a real-time projection of replacing the face, replacing the voice in real time, that is coming, and that is terrifying. The amount of fake information on the internet will definitely be growing, and I'm curious how that will be handled. I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson who recently talked about how we may get to a point where the internet would just die because of all of these bots and auto-generated content. Because, social media can be taken over by bots, not just voice, but any form of text, images. All of this can just be fake generated. You will be able to have content, video content generated. You will be able to have voice content generated. Blog posts by companies, various types of blogs. Ultimately, having a specific type of content will not necessarily be the selling factor. Like, for example, when you go for when you want to find a recipe for a very specific thing, either you have your favorite cooks that you follow, and you know that this guy is very good, and I will use his website, use his recipe, and I know that the result will be very good. Or you just search random. And now, let's say that you want to find the recipe for fried rice. There's maybe 1,000 recipes for fried rice on the internet. What I think may become the new way of how those things are done is that you will have a repository of knowledge, and from that repository of knowledge, people will be able to generate the content in any way or form that they are interested in seeing. So, for example, let's say that maybe cooking is not the best example, but let's go with it.
for me, it is. How I started in digital marketing. I started as a food blogger. I still have my food blog on, so when you talk about recipes, it's all good for me.
Interesting. I actually learned how to cook better during COVID, so it's I treat it as a hobby. And
everybody was doing sourdough breads. I remember those.
Yeah. So your value as let's say a food blogger will not be anymore in the specific blog post, but in the fact that you have a recipe, let's say written in some technical way that, these ingredients, this is how you mix it. And then me coming to your blog, I can select that, okay, I'm a casual person. I want it to be explained in a very friendly way. Maybe I want it explained to be in some funny way in the style of a specific comedian, right? And that will generate me the specific article with the recipe that I can view. And that is a different paradigm, right? Because we're going into, because I think as a creator, you can maybe you can tell me if I'm correct here. The style of your podcast is a part of what brings the viewers, right? So the style and the content. So your specific style of doing this and the content, the type of people you invite, those are the two factors of what brings viewership. Now, imagine a world where only the content matters, not the form, and you can have people generate any form they want. I think that may be something that may be the direction we are going. We're going into.
Pretty interesting, I have to say, because I agree with everything you said. From deepfakes overtaking, just today I have seen a post on Instagram where actually China is issuing a law, or actually confirmed the law, that every AI-generated content must be marked or tagged as AI-generated content. Whatever they create in China, it must be AI-generated or tagged. So I think that's the first step. We have AI Act, right, in European Union, which is all. It should limit a little bit the deepfakes, but we have seen it like everywhere. I talked about deepfakes on my first episodes as well, 1.5 years ago, and we have more and more of them. So yeah, I agree that the technology is used differently, and it always can be used in both ways, like a good way or a bad one. And I'm just imagining, like, maybe I will create a food blog which will look like Google, and you just go there and you just say what you want, and I will just say like it's AI powered food blog, right? There will be no images, no recipe. Just ask whatever you want and it will create it for you in the style you want. So thanks for the idea. And Mateusz, I'm also thinking like about startup life, because I started a couple of companies and products as well in my life, and you said that you are just like opening for the new round of funding. Yes, is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And when you do that, is it in states, or you target also European like investors?
So right now we're going mostly for European investors
Mostly
for
European.
various
Okay.
reasons. It's a strategic decision for
Hmm.
various reasons that I don't want to be disclosing.
Okay, yeah, no, of course, of course. Strategic. And from your opinion, like, is it easier to go for funding in the States or Canada or European Union, from what you have seen?
Uh, it depends. So it depends where you. It depends what exactly you are doing. If you have a explosively growing company that needs a lot of money, I think US is maybe a
Hmm.
good place. If you are American, or if you have an American co-founder, it's probably a good idea.
Hmm.
If you are in Europe, so yeah, I don't think I have a strong opinion about that. Sorry, I started talking, but let's maybe go over this question if you don't mind.
Yeah, okay, no worries. And the last part of, or actually, my last question would be, I had an episode where my guest said, like, if you want to make a career in artificial intelligence, you should go to Python programming, or you should learn Python. Then the next guest actually said that this is wrong. You should not learn Python at all. But I know that you are actually a Python programmer. You also had, or actually delivered a couple of courses on Python. So what's your take on this one? Because I know some people, for example,
Mhm.
the CEO of Claude just recently said the programmers will be gone within the next 12 months. So,
Well, I don't know what they have coming up, so maybe there is a trend. There's a trend, an interesting trend that I've seen online, especially on LinkedIn, because I started. That's the only social media that I use. It's called vibe coding. So
mhm,
people are vibing applications and products. They are essentially using AI to generate applications and um, turn them into businesses.
mhm,
So there are tools right now that you can use to create an application within, I don't know, a few hours, post it online, and have people pay for it if it's something
mhm,
that people would be willing to pay for, of course. Point being that it's a prompt that you write,
mhm,
and the
mhm,
application will be built for you with certain limitations. But let's say that it is up to that extent. Those same people, every few days, there is one that says that they either have been, they don't understand how autoscaling works, so they've
mhm,
been attacked and bombed, and they have to pay $50,000 of compute bill to the platform that they were using. So they were attacked, and you know they have to pay now, and they don't have the money.
mhm,
Or they are attacked by hackers, and people are exploiting security vulnerabilities in their platform, and again, either using it without paying, so they're incurring cost.
mhm,
Oh, they are extracting customer data, which is also bad. This long preface is to say that there are tools that allow you to build applications, but you do need to know what you're doing.
mhm,
You cannot just do that. Otherwise, you put yourself in a lot of risk. Me, as a product person, what I think those tools are very good at is building your
mhm,
prototype and showing it to a limited amount of friends and people you trust to validate the concept that you have. Let's say that you have your idea for an AI generated blog, and the AI generated blog, AI generated cooking site.
mhm,
Don't make it openly available. Even it may be great, but if you do
mhm,
that, you expose yourself to a lot of risk, and AI is expensive, so you expose yourself to a lot of cost.
mhm,
But what I can recommend you do is use those tools to build a prototype and show it to your friends and use it yourself and see if
mhm,
this idea has merit. And then
mhm,
try to use that to generate some first revenue, to validate the concept, to validate whether people would be willing to pay for it, because that's what it's all about. And once you have that first traction, you can go to investors and you can ask them, okay, this idea makes sense. Give me money. I need to hire a developer to build this out. I want to find a technical founder. We want to build it out. So I think that all of those platforms right now, the level of maturity they are right now is prototype. You can use them to build prototypes. When we look at as far as developers will be gone, well, I think you will still at least need one developer to prompt the AI to write your application. You will still need someone who understands how, I don't know, the internet works, how web services work. AI will not replace all of this very, very quickly. There's still a lot of detailed knowledge that you need to have. In the same way how, you can say, okay, I'm not now going to use AI for marketing. I'm going to use AI for sales. Well, you still need to know the basics of marketing and the basics of sales in order to do that. In that way, AI doesn't replace those roles. It superpowers them. It supercharges them to do more at the same amount of time. And the way how we're working at Revoize is a great example of that, because right now I'm the only person in the product team developing that application and doing product management work. And we have the application written in React. We outsourced the development of the prototype. So the company chose React. React is a very good solution, is a very good technology. But I don't know React. But in general, I'm a skilled developer. So AI allowed me to learn React very quickly and to make changes to that application very, very efficiently without necessarily spending now 3 months to learn React. Because I know the programming concepts, the general rules, how programming works, and the general rules, how front-end technologies work. I can now jump into any technology, and with the help of AI, I can learn it very quickly, and I can do things that make sense. But all of that is built on the premise that you know what you're doing from the perspective of the general technology. And those concepts are fixed and universal. So to answer your question, whether you need Python to whether Python is a good thing or not to use whether you're working with AI, it depends. It depends what exactly you want to work. If you want to be building web applications and use AI as part of your platform, then not necessarily. You need just something that will wrap around ChatGPT or Claude, Anthropic, or any of those platforms, and that can be any language, namely, TypeScript with React on the front end and TypeScript backend. That's a reasonable pattern for a small application. So if you want to just build an app that people can use, can type in some prompt, or it will do something for them, you don't really need Python. If you want to be developing AI models, if you want to be building more complicated networks of agents working together, I know that there are libraries in Python right now to do that. I'm not sure what is the coverage of these packages, whether they are mostly in Python or whether in some other languages. I'm just not sure of that. And so if you want to be building, let's say, agentic networks of AI agents working together to solve a certain problem, I think Python is a decent choice. And then lastly, if you want to be building AI models, you probably need Python, because most are built in Python these days. Yeah, so I think that's my longer answer. It depends on what exactly you're trying to do. I would not say that development roles will be gone. Maybe they will change. They will probably change. But I would say that if you haven't yet looked at AI or any AI tools, do look into them, because you may be left behind. If you're not up to date with this, imagine how it might have felt in the early 2000s with the internet coming up and all the .com businesses coming up. It's that level of shift, I think, that will change a lot of things and a lot about how business is being done. I don't think it will necessarily replace people, but I think we will have to. But I think it's a tool that can boost your efficiency dramatically.
Yeah, definitely. And just going back to this vibe coding, I saw a post on LinkedIn. You just said something what I would not think of that once you open your platform or your tool to the general public, they can generate $50,000 like cost on
Yep.
your side. The second one was that there was like a post where the developer said like, I don't know coding, but I created a wipe coded my solution and I made it public. And that was the first post on X. And there was a second post on X when he said like, oh, I'm very sorry, I'm like taking back my platform because somebody installed some funny things into my database. So he couldn't like block it and like properly protect it, and somebody installed something in it, so the whole product was gone.
Yep. Yeah, those things happen. It's a very dangerous thing. I wouldn't say don't try. By all means, try, learn something on it. The platforms that I've tried for writing applications, they from my background in software engineering, they are not great yet. They are lacking. Um, but I think eventually we will get to a point where you can reasonably easily build those kinds of things. But they are still good for prototyping, right? Once you get to a point where you have a bigger system, more complicated system, the equation changes a little bit. One of the things that a human developer has to take into account, or decision that has to be made, is whether how much effort you put into making things future proof and how much effort you put into making things easy to change in the future. So there's a certain way how you architect applications. And if you make mistakes early on, you'll be kind of stuck with this endless loop of technical debt. And that's something that I think, from my experiences, I was vibe coding this one application. That's an idea I have with a friend to try to build an application that does a certain thing. And I was using one of those platforms to build it out. And at some point, the AI just got stuck and couldn't proceed forward with a simple request because it was not looking at the right places, because the application that it built was badly designed and so complicated already after 3 hours, let's say, of vibe coding, that it was not able to effectively make the simple changes that I was asking it for. And if you do that with a bigger application and you continue doing that for, I don't know, a day, a week, a month, you're risking that eventually you're building kind of a house of cards. If you don't know what you're doing, you're risking that you're building a house of cards that may just collapse on you, and you may not be able to recover from it. So I would say tread carefully. Those are things to be used, right? They are tools. They're just not silver bullets, and they are by far not as good as people would think that they are. But of course, I'm biased. I don't like the idea of machines taking my jobs. So of course, a software engineer will tell you that yes, you do need software engineers. It's not that simple, but eventually, it may be different. I still think that you will need software engineers, maybe from the perspective of like a person who uses those AI models to build applications, or you have a team. And so the thing is that you still, but it was also kind of annoying when I was using the tool, because I type a prompt and then I wait for 5 minutes for it to produce a result. And I literally just wait. I see it do things, make decisions, write the code. And then it has the audacity to ask me to verify that it did a good job. So essentially I was reduced to a QA engineer, just clicking through the UI and telling it, no, this button still does not work. So that's a interesting balance. They are tools, and I think one of the skills will become knowing when the tool is failing you, so that you have to take over and make the change, or do something to unlock it. And it will be evolving and changing in a very funny, it will be a very funny dance with developing technologies.
Yeah. And yeah, I agree. Just very quick Q&A. ChatGPT or Claude?
I'm using ChatGPT mostly.
ChatGPT. Audio, communication, or writing prompts?
When talking to an AI model, I'm mostly writing. I've noticed that audio communication and talking with it is nice for like brainstorming when you go for a walk. So sometimes I would go out for a walk, I would put it in my ear, and we would have a longer conversation about like, is this business idea good or not, and having that kind of back and forth. but for day-to-day, definitely typing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just ask this question because I was just thinking, like, what tool could you use and in what form? Because I totally understand and totally get it when you say, like, yeah, the brainstorming. I sometimes do it in a car, right? I have a CarPlay in the car, so when I have a question, I don't ask. I just hit the microphone button on ChatGPT application and I just ask questions. So it actually makes things much more or much faster than writing prompts. And I actually value your last part of this podcast when you jumped a little bit into the future, how this world is changing, how big shift it is. Because just today, when I was coming back from a meeting, I explained ChatGPT to a person who never saw and used AI. And 3 hours later, I received a text message. Oh my God, this is amazing. And I was like, what? Like, what do you mean, man? Like, what? And he was like, you showed me this AI, this ChatGPT tool is just unbelievable. Like, like ask his historic, a teacher as well. And he just said, I asked like many questions from the history. He all answered correctly. Like now I'm like creating social media content with it. So like, okay,
Yep.
good luck. But this is the shift. Like once you get into it and you try it, you cannot stop. It's just very addictive.
Yeah, it definitely, you would feel the lack of it, right? Because it just allows you to do things faster and faster and faster, especially like editing code or writing. And another thing is that, how growing up, um, growing up and being in school, the teachers would tell us not to use Wikipedia for all the answers, right? Or not to use internet and make sure that the things that you're finding on the internet are true and correct. And now we're in the same place with like ChatGPT, where you have to just, it's a tool that you can use. It will give you some answers. You maybe have to verify that those answers are correct, or you have to use this in those kind of unnatural ways of forcing it to be accurate. One of the things that I like to do is prompt it explicitly. Don't make things up. Make sure to cite the sources.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes after it creates a prompt of something that I'm really not very knowledgeable about, I will ask it to double check itself, and it can do that. But in the end of the day, it's a tool that allows us to do certain things. And the problem with this tool is that it's a lot more abstract than a hammer.
Mm-hmm.
It's good at certain things. It's not good with other things. And figuring out how you can use it as an individual and how to use it is part of the fun for me. I love innovation. I love new tools. So for me, it's a very exciting time to be alive because we have this new thing that has all of those capabilities that you can figure out how to use.
Mm-hmm.
And it will unlock a lot of innovation, it will unlock a lot of business. And it will help and it will bring some good for people, I think.
And that's the nice way of closing this conversation. Mateusz, I'm very grateful you found this time to actually talk to me about space industry, artificial intelligence, audio, Revoice, as well, startup life, and in general, talk about technology. So thank you very much for being here with me today.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
So take care and good luck with Revoice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.